Oman, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East and a broker in trying to seek a deal with Iran to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This morning, the president tells Fox News, and I'm quoting the president,
intermediary for peace. We're trying to achieve.
Have you ever heard a president of the United States threaten to bomb the, quote, shit out of a key U.S. ally the way the president is
factoring into his thinking?
President Trump, in a new interview this morning, threatened to bomb Oman, a key U.S. ally, if they get in the way of U.S. efforts to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Do these comments from Trump right now?
Welcome back to Clips News. Today, we are diving into a major diplomatic storm brewing out of Washington that has political analysts and foreign policy experts doing a complete double-take. President Trump has issued a startling, profane threat directed not at an established adversary, but at Oman, a key Middle Eastern ally that has historically acted as a quiet mediator between the United States and Iran. With the deadline on key peace talks passing and regional tensions mounting over the Strait of Hormuz, the White House narrative is shifting rapidly. We're breaking down the direct reporting from the lawn, expert commentary from former administration insiders, and analyzing what this aggressive rhetoric actually means for global alliances, energy markets, and the future of diplomacy in the region. Let's get right into the coverage.
A new threat from President Trump as a window formally closes in the war with Iran. Today marks the end of the Memorandum of Understanding, as it's called, and its 60-day deadline for peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. This morning, there are no plans in sight to end the war, and while it's not clear what happens next, President Trump is lashing out. And one very unlikely target is Oman, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East and a broker in trying to seek a deal with Iran to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This morning, the president tells Fox News, and I'm quoting the president right now, listen to this, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them. Those are the president's words. He also downplays the urgency of a deal as war-weary Americans deal with high gas and oil prices. And his quote, once again, I have no time schedule. I'm not in a hurry, end quote. CNN's Betsy Klein is over at the White House for us. Betsy, what are you learning this morning?
Well, Wolf, back when the U.S. and Iran had reached that Memorandum of Understanding to stop the fighting, and it would kickstart a 60-day period for technical discussions on some of the thornier nuclear issues. That 60-day deadline has officially expired as of today. So where are we? The deal is effectively in shambles. The Strait of Hormuz, traffic there in that critical oil thoroughfare is essentially at relative standstill. And the president now issuing this new warning to a key U.S. ally, Oman, that has served as an intermediary in these talks between Iran and the U.S., particularly on the topic of control of the Strait of Hormuz. He says, quote, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them. Again, the president's words there. And this appears to be an escalation with one of the U.S.'s most important allies in this region. The president also appeared to undercut top officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and the press secretary Caroline Leavitt, who in recent days have suggested that getting oil prices back on track, the price of gas, is just as much of a priority for President Trump as ending this conflict and preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. The president posting this to social media earlier today. He says, quote, the number one goal is and always will be that Iran cannot have in any way, shape or form a nuclear weapon. The president also making clear here that he is not in a hurry to end this conflict. The midterm election says not factoring into his thinking.
We start right at the top of the broadcast, where Wolf Blitzer and CNN's Betsy Klein lay out a startling escalation in U.S. foreign policy rhetoric. The 60-day window under the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran has officially expired without a deal in sight, leaving the strategic Strait of Hormuz in a tense standstill. But instead of focusing solely on Tehran, President Trump turned his sights on Oman, an essential regional partner and mediator, warning on record that if they get in the way, the U.S. will bomb them. Betsy Klein gives us the view directly from the White House, highlighting how this fiery statement completely undercuts the messaging coming from Vice President J.D. Vance and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. While White House officials have spent days reassuring the public that stabilizing gas prices and easing economic pressures were top priorities, the president made it explicitly clear on social media that he is in no rush to end the standoff, regardless of upcoming midterm elections or rising oil costs. This opening segment sets up a massive contradiction between official White House messaging and raw presidential
side.
Today was the deadline set for negotiations to conclude over Iran's nuclear program. Clearly, that's not happening. The Memorandum of Understanding went out the window a bit ago. But just this morning, when it comes to the war with Iran, Ambassador, in a new interview, President Trump said and leveled a threat, saying that he'll bomb he'll bomb Oman if it interferes with U.S. efforts in the Strait of Hormuz. What do you do with that threat? I often in our conversations feel like you kind of are translating what you hear the president saying or trying to do with when he makes these threats. Should Oman, an ally to the United States in this conflict, take that threat seriously?
Of course not. This is Trump's hyperbole. He's telling Oman, STFU, and sit on the sidelines and let me handle this. That's what he's telling Oman. Saying he's going to bomb them as opposed to he's going to tariff them, as opposed to he's going to cut them off. They're all interchangeable. That's just Trump speak. He's in a very delicate position right now, Kate, because they really are making traction with some of the moderates in the Iran leadership. And the IRGC hardliners continually interfere with that. That's why you see these on again, off again, on again, off again announcements coming out of both the United States and Iran. And, you have to give the president credit. Everyone characterized him as a warmonger. He's really trying to make a peace deal here, but it's very difficult. He is dealing with a regime that knows it's facing an existential threat, because if the hardliners are deposed, the IRGC goes away. And, people that are going to lose their existence fight pretty hard. And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, trying to get a peace deal, maybe, but in a war that, he launched. So it's again, we get back to the beginning of what is he actually going to get out of it that he didn't have in the beginning.
Moving into our next key segment, anchor Kate Baldwin puts a crucial question directly to her guest. Should an international ally like Oman take a threat of military action literally? The analysis here offers a fascinating look into how seasoned diplomats decipher presidential rhetoric. The panel argues that this isn't necessarily a literal military objective, but rather classic Trump hyperbole, a high-pressure tactic designed to tell Oman to step aside and let Washington deal directly with Iran. The discussion reveals the delicate balance at play behind closed doors, noting that U.S. negotiators are making progress with moderate elements in Iran, while hardline Revolutionary Guard factions continue to push back. The commentary highlights the irony of a leader attempting to secure a historic peace deal while simultaneously using bombastic threats against the very intermediaries trying to facilitate it. It leaves viewers with a sharp look at the friction between non-traditional negotiation tactics and the fragile realities.
Be interesting to see.
So first we had South Korea, now we have Oman. The president said in an interview with Fox News that he will threaten to, and I quote, bomb the shit out of Oman, which of course is a key US ally partner. It's not the first time, David, that he's threatened to do this. Obviously he did this back in May as well, but why is he doing so again now?
Really hard to tell, because, of course, the president is a man of many grudges, and he, I think, has built up a feud with both the South Koreans and with the Omanis. With the Omanis, he first got upset because they were beginning to negotiate separately with Iran during the height of the military interactions just a few months ago. And in recent times, of course, the Omanis were talking to the Iranians about a pathway that might or might not open up the strait. But he views the Omanis as basically interfering in a Trump-designed plan here. With South Korea, it's a little more mystifying. There is no more solid U.S. ally right now in Asia, other than Japan, with the United States.
And yet the president is clearly hoping to reopen these negotiations that he had in his first term with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And so he has chosen to sort of ignore the fact that Kim Jong-un has now got 60 or so nuclear weapons, maybe more, and missiles that can reach the United States, while he's, of course, continuing to talk about denuclearizing Iran.
Yeah, I mean, it's mystifying, but it's also ironic as well, isn't it? As you point out there, David, because
Yes.
this is an authoritarian state that has nuclear weapons, unlike Iran. What do you think all of this is doing to the trust here of American allies?
It undercuts credibility, and credibility is a really hard thing to both reestablish, even after President Trump is out of office. It would take a long time, I think, to make sure that allies began once again to trust Washington's word. And for places like South Korea and Japan, that is all the more critical, because what's kept them from getting their own nuclear weapons, what's kept them from doing their own separate military buildups independent of the United States, has been the assurance that the U.S. worked hand in glove with them. During the Biden administration, there was a lot of effort put into getting the Japanese and the South Koreans to work together. You may remember there was a summit meeting at Camp David and so forth to get rid of the long-running hostility, goes back to before World War II, between those countries, so that you had three countries sort of sewn up together, the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. And that is now sort of being undone. With Oman, that's a much touchier relationship, but one the United States is clearly going to need, because they are right opposite the Strait of Hormuz, and you want the Omanis on your side.
Today was the deadline.
In this deep dive analysis, veteran journalist David Sanger unpacks what he views as a growing pattern of presidential grudges affecting critical global partnerships. Sanger connects the dots between recent friction with South Korea and these sudden threats toward Oman. He explains that Oman drew the White House's ire by attempting separate negotiations with Iran during military standoffs, which was seen as stepping outside the planned U.S. framework. Sanger then draws a sharp comparison to East Asia, pointing out how strange it is to antagonize a bedrock ally like South Korea, while simultaneously trying to reopen talks with North Korea's nuclear regime. The core warning in this segment is clear. Global credibility is easy to lose and exceptionally hard to rebuild. When long-standing security guarantees appear conditional or unpredictable, key allies like Japan and South Korea face immense pressure to reevaluate their own strategic defenses. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Clips News for more daily political insight.